Welcome back to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandian. We're still on the subject matter of social entrepreneurship, and now we have a foreigner as a guest. Our second guest for tonight is a lifelong learner, a trainer of better thinking, and a facilitator certified by the International Association of Facilitators. A holder of 3 master's degrees from University of Western Australia for research methods, University of Sheffield for educational management, and Nanyang Technological University for strategic studies. He specializes in strategic conversations for scenario planning, culture building initiatives, and restructuring organizations, team and leadership development for managers, system thinking, and learning OD. Husband to Brenda, father to Ethan, Edna, and Ezra, he is a Singaporean by birth, but a global citizen by behavior. Let's welcome Dr. Noel E.K. Tan, who is visiting here to attend the Appreciative Inquiry Forum, which starts on Monday morning. Sir Noel, you're not a doctor, are you?
Yes, no.
Well, you're close to a doctor. Welcome to Philippines and welcome to
Thanks,
Expat Insights.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
So tell us about being a Singaporean. What's good about that?
I think essentially being a Singaporean would mean that we come from a very ordered and orderly society.
Okay.
That gives us some kind of stability.
Right.
Good food also.
Okay.
Yeah, and good friends. Yeah, I think essentially that's it.
Good food without chewing gum.
Sad to say, that's a part of life that most younger Singaporeans would not have the opportunity to enjoy, unless of course they go to Malaysia or outside of Singapore. Definitely.
And lots of fines on the streets. Anything you do, you get fined.
Well,
it's a fine city.
Yeah, exactly. you see that on the t-shirts, right? Singapore is a fine city.
Right.
The issue here is that helps with the order and orderly part that I described the city to be. Yeah. But well, we make do. I haven't been fined personally in all my 41 years living there. Yeah.
You're 41, you look 21.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
It's a beautiful city, it's a lovely country,
Thank you.
and congratulations for coming from such a beautiful country. Very structured, very orderly, and really good looking, very clean. So happy to have you here. Tell us what brings you to the Philippines, and what's your first impression of this beautiful country that I live in?
I think there's a lot of life and vitality to the place. In the Philippines. When I rode in the cab from the airport to the hotel, I had a very good conversation with the cabbie who talked about a lot of humanistic things that I empathize with and share with, like family, the importance of being a good parent and a good citizen.
Right.
I think I saw that in that brief conversation over 45 minutes. On the way in, but on the streets I saw that people were active, they're going places, you know. So there's a lot of nice energy in town. Yeah.
Singapore to me from here, where I am, me and to the rest of my kababayans, it looks very orderly, very clean, very structured, as you mentioned. No? How does Philippines look to Singaporeans in Singapore? The man on the street, how does he regard Philippines?
I think the typical man in the street would think Philippines is a place where a lot of their domestic help comes from, a place where it's in Southeast Asia, people look like Singaporeans also, but they speak different. Less easy to understand than a Malaysian or Indonesian because of the colonial heritage. We haven't had a lot of exposure to Filipino food, so I think that's where a lot of the
Isn't
a lot
there
of potential.
One whole building of Filipino businesses.
Lucky Plaza,
right.
Lucky Plaza, But I think we've not gone in there to fully explore the
it's
culture.
Just one of those places. There.
So I think we've got a lot to learn about the Philippines, and I think most people take for granted. But I think Filipino culture is very service-oriented, very welcoming, very gentle, and I think that those are things that we can learn a bit more from.
So Noel, what do you do? I mean, what's your passion? What's your purpose? And what drives you in what you do?
Sure. I often describe the work that I do as to people that I meet for the very first time is that I'm an organizational midwife.
You're an organizational midwife, so you give birth to new ideas and
I help people. I help people in organizations and groups give birth to the things they want to see for
things
themselves.
they want to give birth to.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So my job is to help that. I don't own the baby. I'm not the parent.
You're just there to
support,
wipe the brow, give a glass of water,
give a bit of instructions. You know, tell them to breathe. Tell them to breathe, and you know, and in essence, there to support them going through that journey of birthing something new.
Right.
So that's how I describe my work most of the time. So it could be new strategies. It could be new products. It could be basically just coming together as a group, trying to sense what the environment that the group is functioning in requires of them. So culture development is important. Birthing a new culture.
For my very simplistic and baby boomer kind of a mind, would you like to cite me an example of something that a birth that you helped bring about? Can you cite an example?
An example that I've been referring to over the last 6 months is a project that was very interesting to us. We helped the Singapore government merge 5 prisons together. These 5 prisons were previously, I wouldn't call them independent, but they were located in different parts of the island. Now they had to share premises.
Singapore is such a small city, and what were 5 prisons doing in Singapore? You have so many more criminals than civilians?
We have actually 14 prisons.
Oh my God!
I only
your population is only 1.4 million, so...
Yeah, no, we have...
I'm just kidding. Okay, so go on. 5 prisons.
Yeah, so 5 prisons, they had to come together to learn how to share premises, learn how to share systems, talk about shift rotations, talk about training days. So a new culture essentially had to come about. And we had to do this within an existing culture already.
Which was of being independent and
also
trying
belonging
to outdo each other,
not trying to outdo each other, but they were only previously located in a particular location, looking after a specific audience. So, for example, one prison we look after drug inmates, but their rehabilitation calls for a different kind of treatment, whereas other more hardcore individuals would, in another prison, would have to undergo a different regime, but now they have to share premises. So how do we go about that? And at the same time, there's an existing culture of wanting to see prisoners only once and only once, meaning that there is this vision there that they should be prepared for reintegration into society. The first time you see a prisoner is the last time.
Say that again, 1 into 1?
Okay, the existing prison service vision is to make sure that they see the prisoner once, and hopefully only once.
Oh, so they don't come back. All right.
We need to prepare them for
the next life. Or the real life.
For the real life that they are called to be. So we need to help them support that vision, to look at each other collaboratively and appreciatively, so that the officers can therefore do the same to the individual offender. Because if we look at them as only problematic individuals, then they will always return. They will always return. They will always come back through the gates.
So how did integrating 5 different prisons bring about that culture of hope and...
well, we used appreciative inquiry, this organizational method called appreciative
inquiry. What is appreciative inquiry?
Is the choice to, given a situation, to look for strengths. Strengths in the individual, strengths to look at the group, and helping the group see that they have these strengths.
Possibilities.
Possibility driven, opportunity driven.
Okay, great. So another question I wanted to ask you about is that something you mentioned before the show is that you wanted to talk about how organizations were considered systems in the 90s, and how today you are helping change that paradigm of organizations being systems into communities. Can you enlighten us again?
Sure. Of course, a lot of the way we take action in our world is based on how we see it. So we need to look at the idea of how we see organizations. So the very first step that if you are a student of management science, you would encounter that organization as a machine. Now, I think that has its usefulness and it has its problems.
This was way back in the 60s and 70s.
It's a legacy of the Industrial Revolution.
Pre-Drucker, before Drucker.
Pre-Drucker, That's problematic because then if you look at organizations as being people by people, then you might have the mentality that to fix organizations you have to fix people.
Right.
And that's not good because then you are saying that people, therefore you can divide people into good people and bad people.
Right. So if you think you want to fix people, that means there is something wrong with
exactly.
people. Okay,
there's something wrong with people. Now then comes along Peter Senge in 1990s with systems thinking, and he says, let's look at organizations as systems, interconnected parts coming together for a common purpose, which is great. Which I think he brought in a new way of looking at
a much more bigger global picture,
more inclusive. So that tackles the good person, bad person kind of dichotomy.
It kind of puts it aside. It puts it aside.
And that is useful. But I think if we stretch it to the limit, most times if we are mapping a system, then we might lose the opportunity to take action where it really counts. We still forget the person. We might still end up looking at all the parts, looking at the individuals as parts, but not realizing the interconnections and how to breathe life into interconnections between person to person. So this is where I suggest...
Oh no, so you're saying that Peter Senge's approach of looking looking at the whole systemic structure of the world would somehow not be able to come down to the level of individuals?
I'm not saying that he says that.
Yeah.
I say that when it's applied, I think most times people, organizations...
You might overlook.
You might overlook because you're driven to action. Now, we've done all the mapping, so now let's take action.
Right.
Whereas we are saying that, look, we want to move, the common purpose is there that the systems view gives us, but how do we enact it? This is where we need to bring in the interconnections between people.
So,
and of course, and we've been informed by Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, that individuals are the key to change.
Right.
Yeah. You know, you need people to enact the change, and hence, if you're looking for a model to look at organizational life, that brings in individuals into the full frame. It is the model that we propose, we empathize with, that of organizations as communities, where people bring in their strengths from the fringe into the center.
So what are the features of a community?